Okay, good. I wouldn't want to go. I wouldn't spend it. Okay. He's leading a group.
No, it's not.
Not the first time. He does it. Alles is Panusa. Alles is Panusa.
Yeah, got me some sperm. Rambam from the stairs and Rambam.
Over there. No, we gotta get in the house now. We gotta get this set before we come.
Yeah, Rambam from the stairs.
And they come in.
Oh, yeah.
I was over there.
No, by the way, it's not a weird. It's not a bad thing, by the way. Yeah, fine. You got what kind of wine did you get? No, that's I don't know what is right. No, but you ordered the whole thing. I see. I thought that you ordering for me too. I thought.
You should give everybody give them email address. Yeah?
I don't know.
As good as that. Oh, that's fine.
Okay, wait.
No.
Oh, they give you out a list every month? I think I have December. No, you gave me that version. Okay. Anytime it comes in, just forward it straight to me. I mean, you know, maybe in the beginning you don't, because I had too much stuff by you. Now that I think I'm empty.
Huh?
What?
So wait.
No, now I'm not empty. You're empty. Empty of my stuff. Empty of my stuff. Okay, so send me. You'll see. Because, you know, so prices coming in. Firms coming in. Maybe when I'm with more stuff, I'm looking for a kangaroo one. Maybe I can get it right. What did you do then? Okay, whenever, don't rush. And I wasn't going to bother you, but then I figured I would talk to you. Okay. Whatever, yeah. Okay, don't worry about it. We'll send me the bill when we get it. And also make sure that my friends here, my Balabati friends, get you sunset. So come on. Hamada, whatever his name is.
If you write down
He knows about the same time. Get it if these guys want it. It's the $10, it's $1, whatever you're charging. Get them, send them 10, 20 rounds. I'll give it to all the friends. They're happy, they'll be proud, you know. Come on. He said, what do you want? Jeff, right. You finish it?
Okay, Rabbi Sai, I just spoke to the Rav Simon. He called me 2 minutes ago from Vilna. Vilna. He apologizes to the Rav for not being able to be here. He asked me to be his shliach in introducing the Rav Weinfeld, the Rav of Lev Avram, a very choshva kehila in Kensington, and the Rosh Shiva of Beis Meir, and Baruch Hashem, I also have the schus of knowing the Rav personally. Tremendous Talmud Chacham and tremendous mensch.
We'll find that.
And without further ado, please, HaRav Weinfeld.
Shkayach, Agudah Vach. Really, even though Rabbi Cinnamon isn't here, but Bereshus Rabbi Cinnamon, which is the Bria Chatichon and the great, inspires us all to live and learn. No matter what we do, the rest of always, but yeah, that's the idea. And Bereshus the Gewaldige Mevakshe Torah. So we're gonna tonight try to learn a Sugya, which is the Daf Zayin and Moed Cotton, which we learned this week, and it's pretty complicated. The Gemara, the Rishonim, how to understand the Gemara. So we're gonna a little bit focus on the Rambam. The Rambam Taka a little bit didn't go along with with our Sugyos HaGemara, so it makes it a little easier. That's going to be as the main focus of the Shiur is to go through how the Rambam understood the idea from Ein Royen Negoyim be Yontif, be Regel, be Shabbos. We're going to see the idea. So, but let's begin Avada with our Mishnah, with our Gemara, and from that we'll take it to the Shittas HaRambam. Is azoy. Steht in the Mishnah, Daf Zayin, Reb Meir Oimer, Royin es Negoim. There is a girsa that's in parentheses by us, Betchilo, Lahoke lavaloi lahachmir, Vachachomim oimrim loi lahoke v'loi lahachmir. So, the way Rashi and Ksav Yad explains this is to be metame. The Poshet Pshat is to Ekoyin in order to, in Hilchas Saras, the halacha is very different than in other halachas. In Hilchas Saras, as long as the Kohen doesn't say that this person is Tomei, this person should be a Musger, whatever the halacha should be, there's no halacha that applies to this person. Yeah, when we have a question, an Issa v'heter, before you go to the rabbi to ask the question, it's a suffix, right? In Hilchas Negoyim, there's no such a thing. As long as the Kohen not paskent the psak, it's all good. So Remeya holds like this. The fact that the Kohen will, if a person has a nega, a person has some thing on his ba'or b'saroi, if a person has a nega, we'll see behemshach that it's be'emes lav dafke nigei odom. But if a person has a nega, he goes to the Kohen. There's a chiyuv to go to the Kohen. V'huvel Kohen. He goes to the Kohen, and the Kohen checks and sees what is the situation. If it's something to talk about, if it's something that doesn't have yet the simonei tumah, if it doesn't have the two saris leveinois or other simonim, the halacha will be that the Kohen will make him a musger. Or if he sees the simonei tumah, he makes him a muchlit. So Remeya holds on Yontif, and this is what everyone holds, that on Yontif you're not supposed to put a person into a situation that'll be bitzaras. That's the halacha. Rashi says very simple, if he's going to make him tomei, he's going to make him pain, he's going to be metzayim b'moyed. So that's a stira, to be metame. A person is a very uncomfortable geshmak, not a geshmak thing, which is a stira to simchas yontiv, and memela we avoid that. Halt Remeya, but it's not a problem. Let the kohen see the person, and if it's tohor, you're relaxing the guy. If it's Tomei, he'll just be shoisik, he'll just be quiet. Remeya holds there's no problem with being quiet. The Chachomim say, no. The idea from the Chachomim is, as it's explained, that the Pasuk, as the Gemara says, Amid Beis, that there's two options. Either you're metame or you're metaher. Either you're metame or you're metaher. Well, that's too much pressure, but I'll try. So it's either letame or letaher, and memela there's no option from being shoisek. Yeah, there's no option from being being silent. And memela halten the chachomim ein royin on yontif. There's no such a thing as Riyas Negoyim, that's a Shittas HaChachom. The Gemara brings a Braisa that Remeya and Rabbi Yosi argued in this Machloikis. Yeah, Remeya Oymer, Royanes Negoyim Lahokel Avaloi Lahachmir, and Rabbi Yosi says, Loi Lahokel Avaloi Lahachmir. Comes Rava and explains this, that Betohor, that there's three steps, explains Rava. Betohor, when a guy is toir and he sees something on ba'or b'saroi and he wants to find out what this is, says Rava, l'kula alma loy chozi. L'kula alma, you don't go to the kohen doesn't pasken on this, because that's definitely a stira to simchas yontiv. So let's go through this according to the simplest way that the Rishonim explain it. It's not so easy, but the simplest way probably to explain it, that Remeya holds that in such a case, even if he's shoisik, even if he doesn't say anything, the guy will understand that something is wrong. Right? The guy will understand, why is he quiet? Why is he silent? So by a Torah, if he goes to the Kohen, even if he's going to be shoisik, it's also going to be mitzayir him. It's also going to affect his simchas yontiv. So Mamela, in this case, says Rava, Betor is nishkan sofik, according to Remeya and the Chachomim, there's no psak. You don't go to the Kohen. By a musgerishan, after being already a week locked up, says the Gemara is lekula alma chazi. Lekula alma chazi. Why? So again, this is also a little complicated. Why lekula al mechazi? So according to Remeya l'choira, because he could be shoysek. If he sees that he's taka tomei, he'll be shoysek. Remeya holds he could be quiet, and the guy won't understand why he's quiet in this by a musga. Why, according to Rabbi Yossi, you could also be quiet? What happened here? So the Rishonim say in Mahalach that in this case there's no litamoi or litaroi. When there's three options, when there's an option from litaroi, because it could be that it's tired. It's not. It doesn't even need another week of hezger. It could be that it's another week of hezger. It could be that it's taka muchlit, that it's tamei. But when there's three options, it doesn't apply the halacha from litamoi, litaroi, or litamoi. That's how the Rishonim explain this case. But when is the machloikis? The machloikis is after 2 weeks. Over there's only an option, because if it didn't develop into simone tumah, he goes to tahara. If it did, he becomes tamei. So there's only two options. So that's where Rabbi Yossi holds that the halacha from letaroi or letamoi applies, and memela Rabbi Yossi says you can't be quiet. So you have to. So ein roinas and nagayim. So after 2 weeks being behezger, that's for sure, says Rava. That's where Rabbi Yossi holds you don't see him, and Remeya holds that you could see him and just be quiet. That's our Gemara in Moed Katan Kipshutai. So here the question is as I. So let's go to the Rambam. The Rambam brings this halacha in two places. The Rambam says, let's begin with Hilchas Tumas Seras. Zok the Rambam Azoy. Zok the Rambam Azoy. The halacha, the Rambam says in Perik Tes, halacha ches. Zok the Rambam Azoy. Yeah, let's begin the beginning of the Rambam. Choson. Shenir boy nega, that sees a nega. Noisten loy shivas yemei amishte. V'cheinim nir bebegodov oy bebeisoy ein royen oy seyad ach amishte. Okay. V'chein beregel. The same halacha is yontif. Noisten loy kol yemoy sa regel. Shenema v'tzivo hakoyen ufinu es abayis. Im emtino toire ledvar arshus shelo yitamu keilov kal v'choyim ledvar mitzvah. So the Rambam says like this. The Rambam says on Yontif, if a person sees a nega, if a person sees yeshanira boy nega, is the halacha is you don't go to the kohen. You don't go to the kohen. Noisten loy kol yemoy sareg. How do we know this? It's interesting. The Rambam here doesn't say a word about Simchas Yontif. The Rambam over here doesn't talk a word about Simchas Yontif. Why don't you go to the kohen? So the Rambam brings a pasuk, a limit. This limit is by us in the Gemara on the Zayin Omid base. The Gemara ground that brings it by us not for the Mekoir Hadrasha, just the Gemara brings it to bring out to show that we need the psak of the kohen in order to be metame. But Lemaisa steht in Gemara that there's a halacha, that there's a pasuk by Nigei Batim, that the halacha is that when the kohen paskins that this nega in the bayis is a nega tzaras, all the kalim in the bayis become tameh. So the Torah says an interesting thing. The Torah says before the kohen paskins, ufinu es habayis, take out your kalim, don't let it become tameh. So we put the kohen on hold, right? We tell the kohen don't paskin because we want to save our kalim. Learn the Gemara that there's a kol shekain. If we stop the kohen from paskining when we want to save our kalim, is a kol shekain that we save yontif from paskining the halacha. Right? So this is the kal v'choyma l'dvar mitzvah in order that our yontif should be a geshmake yontif. This is the makar that the Rambam brings. Why on regel ein royen es anagoy? This is the Rambam in Tumas Siras. In Hilchas Yontif, the Rambam does mention a little bit more. The Rambam says over here like this. Zayin Tezayin. Sagt der Rambam azay. Ein royen es anagoyim b'moyid. Ein royen es anagoyim b'moyid. Shemo yimtze tomei v'nimtze chagoy nehepach le'evel. Period. So here the Rambam did say, if there's a svaradik thing, that nimtzach hagoy nehepach le'evil. But the truth is, it would sound a little bit v'noiv oif like a steerer, right? The Rambam here is saying a svara, and over there he's bringing the posik, right? V'nimtzach hagoy nehepach le'evil. But I think the pashtus is, the Rambam didn't explain in Hilchos Hamzeras what's the dvar mitzvah, right? The idea is that Chagoy is nehepach le'evil, and that's something that we don't want to do. It's mitzvah the mitzvah. It's not, our practical thing. It's not a dvar hashus. So the yisoid that we don't want to be mahapach the chag le'evil is. So who says that's a reason to stop the re'iyas hanega? So we need a limit. We need the kal v'choyma. Once we learn out the limud, the idea that's behind the limit is that we could we could learn out that yes. So the idea is that you could have that you could make the kohen on hold. We don't paskin the halacha. We don't paskin the halacha. That's the din. Now,
why does he only put it over there? Why does he say the svara?
Right.
And Yom Tov and the
right, and in Tumas Saras he says over there.
He talks the philosophy in Yom Tov.
Right. Because in Yom Tov, when he's talking about the Simchas Yom Tov, he's bringing out that idea. It's not such a Tumas Sarastic halacha, right? The yisoid that we tell the kohen to not the pascha, that's a Tumas Saras halacha, right? So we need a mekoyer for that. So the Rambam doesn't go into the detail what the mitzvah is. When he's talking about Yom Tov, he's probably this is the Nyanim here. He's talking about not to get married on Yom Tov. He's talking about the Simchas Yom Tov. So the Rambam talks about it, but it could be it needs more explanation. But this again, it's interesting. Here the Rambam says it misvara nimtzach chagen hebel evil, and over there he brings a pasuk. I think if we think into it, it's not mamash astira, but it's something to be ma'ori.
If the client would have drank for Simchas Yom Tov, he's going to drink.
He's going to drink.
Yes, he'll drink. So how could he pass the Messiah with him?
Oh! You're saying we should think beside that. I guess he should try not to drink. Good. Before davening. Before he drinks. Okay. It's all good. Very geschmack. Okay. Now the big question here on the Rambam is Poshet. Yeah, this is all the noise the Kalim ask, that the Rambam brought this halacha without any b'med devar mamurim, without any questions. It says the Rambam paskins that ein royenes an goyim beregel, ein royenes an goyim beregel. L'choyre we learn our Gemara Moed Katan. We see that there's a difference. Das says behezgesh rishoyin. It depends. Again, this is all different rishonim how to learn Rava, but the way we learn Rava, the way Rashi says, is after 1 week being a hezger, there's an halacha that the kohen has to paskin. Royenas and a goyim. Royenas and a goyim. In that case, everyone holds that royenas and a goyim. After 1 week being a musger is royenas and a goyim. As I state in unser Gemara. That says, when is the machloikis? After 2 weeks. So in that case, the Rambam can paskin like the chomim, but lekula alma, after 1 week is royenas and a goyim. So why did the Rambam just say kipshutoi ein royenas and a goyim, ein royenas and a goyim b'moyed? The Rambam should explain that it depends what the situation is. Zogim the noise kelim azoy, and this is just the noise kelim say. This is the Magid Mishnah, the Kesef Mishnah, the Mishnah of Melech. We'll see by Chava. They all explain that the Rambam had gehalten that the Mishnah and the Braise are two different things. Das says that Rava that said his shtickle Torah was all spoken in the Braise, where there's a machloikis from Rabbi Yosi and Rameya. He all said this in Rabbi Yosi. But the Mishnah has nothing. The Mishnah, the Dasa Chachomim, in M is l'choyre ein royen without any conditions. In any case, is ein royen as an goyim. And Mamela the Rambam paskin according to the Chachomim the Masnisen. The Rambam paskin according to the Chachomim the Masnisen, and not according to Rabbi Yosi the Habraise. And Divrei Rava was all spoken in Rabbi Yosi, not in the Chachomim from the Mishnah. This is what the Noise Kelim all explain. Pshat in the Psaka Rambam. So again, let's understand this. So l'choira, if the Rambam is passing like the Chachomim, it would sound that without Rava, it would sound that the halacha will be that in any case is ein royenas and a goyim. That says not a toir, not a not the first week of a musger, not the second week, right? It's ein royan across the board. The ma'ase is that the mashmoyes from the Rambam is Sai in Hilchas Tumas Seras and Sai in Hilchas Yontif is that it's talking about the first time by a Torah, right? The Rambam says the Lashon ein royanas in the Goyim b'moyed sheme yimtze tomei v'nimtze chagoy nehepach le'evil. And the same Lashon over here also chosun shenira boy nega. So this is definitely something we have to understand better. If the Rambam Taka didn't go with Rabbi Yossi, didn't go with Rava, but it would sound l'cha'ira from the Rambam that the Rambam holds that only the first time. To say if you see something that you might think that it's a nega, you want to go to the kohen. In that case, halt the Rambam ein royin. But what happens if you have already a nega, and now you're a musger and you want to find out what the situation is, if it got worse, if it got better? In that case, halt efsheh the Rambam that there's no issue from going to a kohen on Yontif. And Avada, this needs to be understood.
Then he would still hold like the Brisa. He could still hold like the Brisa if he holds that.
Right, he could hold like the Brisa that ein royan. According to the Brisa, after 1 week, it's definitely ein royan. That would be a gewaltige chiddush that the Rambam would hold in that case, that royan.
There's a lot of shot in there.
Right, okay, so let's try,
You can find one shot to let them...
One shot, the Gemara said, Rava said, that after 1 week, it's l'kula alma loy chazi. L'kula alma loy chazi. Yeah, that's what the Gemara says. L'kula alma chazi, I'm sorry. L'kula alma chazi. Right, so it depends what that first week is. Right? Okay, so let's see how we can understand this Rambam. But I'm just saying, this is what we see. L'chayra from the Lashon Rambam is that he's only talking about the first week. He's talking only by a Torah that sees a nega. But after 1 week, after 2 weeks, there's no such a difference that says there's always going to be royanas and a goyim. What's the idea behind it? So let's get into this a little bit from the Mishnah.
So he's mashmit the whole.
He's mashmit the whole thing.
He's mashmit the whole thing. He just leaves our imagination.
Right. So let's figure out the Shittas HaRambam. Let's figure out this Rambam. Again, he leaves it up a little bit to our imagination with the Zoks, but let's figure out, Taka, that we shouldn't need imagination. So let's see like this. The Mishnah tells us, a beautiful Mishnah in Masechtas Negoim, in the first Perik, Mishnah Dalit, sagt the Mishnah that the Chanina's Kana Kahanim hat gehalten that Chanina's Kana Kahanim oime ei royenes Negoim betchilo la'acher HaShabbos. Listen to this. In other halacha, Reb Chanina's Kana Kahanim held that a kohen shouldn't see Negoim Sunday. Was ist schlecht Sunday? Sheshavua shelo yichol liyos b'Shabbos. Because if you're going to see on Sunday, you count 7 days, comes out Shabbos. So if he's going to make him a muskel l'mashul, the next time to see him or anything, he'll make him it's always going to be 7 days. 7 days down the road will be Shabbos. And Shabbos, here we're introduced to a new thing. Till now we know from our cotton about Regal. The Mishnah is talking about Shabbos. Sheshavua shelo yichol liyos b'Shabbos. And Shabbos, there's no re'iyas negoyim. We have to understand that. Aber as ich steht in the Mishnah. Zogte, Reb Chanina's Kana Kahanim noch a Sach, v'loi b'sheni, and the second time, you don't see him on Monday. Why? Not the second time. Don't see him also on Monday, because Shavua Sheni Shelo, if only 2 weeks, is going to come out again on Shabbos. That's by Nigei Odom, which is always only 2 weeks of Hezgeh. V'loi b'shlishi lebatim, and not Tuesday for batim, because that comes into 3 weeks and it comes out again on a Shabbos. Bottom line, Reb Chanina's Kana Kahanim says, don't see a nega that will come out at the second time to see it will be on a Shabbos, or the third time by nega batim. He's not talking meanwhile about Yontif. Let's. So he's talking about Shabbos. Sheshavua shlish chol liyos b'Shabbos. Rebbe Kiva oime la'olam royin. You could, no problem. You could see it l'oilam. Interesting lashon, it would sound even on Shabbos, but let's see. L'oilam royin. Chol liyos b'shtoich HaShabbos. What are you going to do if it's going to come out on a Shabbos? Mavirin la'ach HaShabbos. Just don't see it. Wait till Sunday. So again, Rebbe Akiva argues with this idea that you have to be a chacham eina b'rosh. They have to figure this out when it's going to come out, if it's going to come out on a Sunday or if it's going to come out on a Shabbos. Rebbe Akiva says, "L'oilam royin." You could see Sundays, you could see Mondays, you could see Tuesdays, It's going to come out Shabbos. Choli is b'soich Shabbos. Ma'avirin la'ach Shabbos. This is the Mishnah. This is the Mishnah. Comes the Rambam in Tumas Seras and brings this halacha. He says like this: B'chol yoim royin halacha zayin. One halacha before the halacha from Regal. B'chol yoim royin as an agoyim chutz mishabes v'yontiv. Right? B'chol yoim royin as an agoyim chutz mishabes v'yontiv. So again, we have a Rambam that's talking about putting together Shabbos and Yontiv. Chol yoim shvi liois b'Shabbos oy b'Yontiv ma'avirin la'ach HaRav. The Rambam paskins, you could see on Sunday. It's going to come out on Shabbos. Ma'avirin. That says the Rambam paskins like Rebbe Akiva from the Mishnah. That if it falls out on a Shabbos, you push it off. You push it off. Chol liois b'Shabbos oy b'Yontiv ma'avirin la'ach HaRav. This is the Rambam. Now, let's understand what is this, what's going on here. This says Tazoy. L'choira, the mashmoyis again from this Rambam is that the Rambam says, B'chol yoim royenes and agoyim chutz b'Shabbos v'yontiv. It sounds that that's like the Hakdoma. Chol yoim shvi elias b'Shabbos oy b'yontiv mavir la'acharav. This Rambam would sound a little bit that right, that there's a first of all, we have a Rambam that's saying clearly that the second week, right after 1 week being a Musger, is a royim b'Shabbos v'yontiv. Right, before we had a question, what the Rambam holds. The Rambam in Halacha Ches and in Hilchas Yontiv is talking about a Tohir, right, that wants to go to the Kohen. Here we have a Rambam that's talking clearly about Chol Yom Shvi, Liois b'Shabbos oy b'Yontiv, Ma'avir la'acharav. We don't see after 1 week a person that is a Musger, right? This is what the Rambam is telling us, B'soich Devorav. The Chiddush is that you could see on Sunday, even though it's going to fall out the 7th day on Shabbos, because if it's going to fall out on Shabbos, you're going to push it off for the next day. This is what the Rambam is paskening. This is what the Rambam is paskening.
Does this have to do with Simcha?
So let's understand. So the Choira, what is this halacha from the Mishnah? The Mishnah only spoke about Shabbos. The Rambam, interestingly, put together Shabbos and Yontif. So what is this halacha? So the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos says, what's the halacha from Ein Roinas and Goyim b'Shabbos? Says the Pirush HaMishnayos by Rambam that it's because of din. A new halacha. There's a halacha from Ein Don and Din b'Shabbos. And because of that, a Kohen shouldn't see on Shabbos the tzaras. Azoy zok the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayos. It's because, and as we bring the Rambam Batanura, that this is the reason for this Issa has nothing to do with Simcha. It's because Ein Don and Din b'Shabbos. And Mamela, that's the Issa. Now Avada, it's not so poshut because Din that's not allowed on Shabbos is only if it's Dinei Mominis, which there's a shvuz that you might write, right? But Issa Avada, there shouldn't be any issue on Shabbos, right? What's the idea that there's such a thing as a Issa from Re'iyas Negoyim because it's thin? So the Tiferes Yisrael interestingly says the interesting thing that it needed a lot of kovid rosh for the Kohen to paskin. To us it doesn't sound like a pesiyah, you just look, and it was a very hard decision, and he would want to write down his stodim. Maybe make a simon on the hand. He doesn't say that, but there is such a thing. They used to put such a thing around. I don't know if they used to write it, but they used to put a bandage or something. No?
Bandage? I think they wrote no.
Mark, yeah, it could be. Okay, he doesn't say that. He says because he wanted to push it right down, and Mitoich Tirda also, he says, the Tiferes Yisrael, very interesting, it pays to look in Perek Aleph Mishnah Aleph, he says that because the Kohen became so arangeton in going through the nega that he could have forgotten that it's Shabbos. Yeah.
But the 72 colors, it has to match all the colors.
Right. It's a complicated decision, and Mamela, l'chol marer sheishesril dav, right? It comes out that it's 4 times. Okay, so this is the halacha from Ein Roinas and Negoyim b'Shabbos. Says the Rambam that the idea is because it's a din. Because it's a din, and Mamela is Ein Roinas and Negoyim b'Shabbos. That's the halacha from Ein Roinas and Negoyim b'Shabbos. Now the question, but is why?
Nothing to do with Cholamoid.
This has nothing to do with Chol Hamoed. So now, according to that, when the Rambam brings now Shabbos and Yontif, he means only Yontif, if that's the reason. If the reason is because Ein Don and Din, Avada, this won't apply to Chol Hamoed, it will only apply to Yontif, Kipshuto, Mamish Yontif, but not on Chol Hamoed. The Shaila is, but why does the Rambam need to put here into Yontif? The says that's L'choira, we would understand. Shabbos doesn't have the halacha from Simcha, right? Shabbos doesn't have L'choira the halacha from V'samachta b'chagecha. It doesn't have the din Simcha. What?
Oynik Shabbos.
Oynik Shabbos, but not Simcha. That's the Pashtus. We'll see. We'll see. The Mishnah Melech is talking to tell us that there is, but the Pashtus maybe would be that there's no reason to aser riyas negoyim on Shabbos mitzad Simcha, right? Rashi says v'samachta b'chagecha. That's not on Shabbos. So Memela, the only reason to say that you're not allowed to do it on Shabbos is because of din. So Memela, that's Shabbos. But the Rambam brought Shabbos and Yontif together. L'choira Yontif has its own reason of v'samachta b'chagecha, and Shabbos has the reason from din. Avada, that's a Dova Pella. Why the Rambam combined these two things? That the Rambam brings a Shema, Yomi Ashvi will be, the Rambam says, in this halacha, B'chol Yom Roinas Negoyim Chutz Mishabbos v'Yontif. L'choira Shabbos and Yontif are two different reasons, right? Shabbos is because of din, and Yontif is because of Simcha. And the Rambam says, Chol Yom Shvi Lish B'Shabbos, Oy B'Yontif Mavir L'Achrav. Again, L'choira, Yontif also has din, but the question is, what does it's two different things. It's two different things. Why did the Rambam put together here Shabbos and Yontif? Yontif has its own reason. Yontif is Mishum Regel, Mishum Simcha. Why did the Rambam have to put together here Shabbos and Yontif? Again, the Mishnah is talking only about Shabbos. So why did the Rambam bring the Shabbos and Yontif together, even though, right, it's true, on Yontif, if it's not Chol Hamoed, it's also Mishum Din also. But what does the Rambam need this for? So the Mishnah Melech will go through a little bit. The Kitzara, the Mishnah Melech is a beautiful Mishnah Melech, a long Mishnah Melech in Hilchis Yontif, and the Mishnah Melech says as follows. It's just kedai maybe to say over that before we say Mishnah Melech. It was the yahrzeit from my Rebbe Reb David Soloveitchik Zechat Tzadik v'Kodesh Levracha last week, and like about 10 years ago, his eyes started to not to work well. And he went to an eye doctor and he complained that he can't see. He said he needs an operation. He feels like he needs to. And the doctor checked his eyes, and the doctor said, he was up to 90 years old at that point already. And the doctor said, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, your eyesight. And Reb David tells him, Mishnah Lamelech, Mishnah Lamelech. And the guy didn't know what he's talking about. And he explained to him, that we have a Rambam. And the Rambam has on bottom Mishnah Lamelech, and with my eyes I can't see the Mishnah Lamelech anymore. And Mamela, he told him, please do something for me. And that was the story. Al Kaponim. So the Mishnah Lamelech it explains a beautiful idea. Let's understand it, and we'll try to explain it. Mishnah Lamelech says that Be'emes, he's naming on Kedova Poshet. Interesting. That there is the reason from Simcha on Shabbos. Like Revelva was saying, there's Be'emes, there's a drosha, we Yom Simchaschem, there's the darshan that it's Yom HaShabbos. The Mishnah Melech is learning that on Shabbos there's the same halacha as Yontiv when it comes to Simcha. But here's the big chiddush from the Mishnah Melech, and this is Be'emes, the Mishnah Achroina also learns like that in this Nekudah. That the Rambam had gehalten that the din from ein royenes and a goyim mitzat simcha is only by a tohor shenir nega that wants to go to the kohen. In that case, there'll be a din that ein royenes and a goyim because it's mevatel the simcha. But once a guy is a musger, once a guy is its mitzoira, to paskin yom shvi, the second week, there's no problem. Mitzat simcha. So the Rambam learned the only echetimtzi that we have to come on. Why should we say the second week is also to see after being a musger? Is only because of din. Only because of din. Mitzat din, it's also to see on Shabbos and on Yom Tov. Das heißt das so. B'choil HaMoed, if you're already a Musger, you could go to the Kohen, Royenes and the Goyim, Alter Rambam. When on Chol HaMoed you cannot go is the first week, because that's going to be Bivatel the Simcha. On Mitzad Din, it's also to go to the Kohen even after 1 week. That's what the Rambam is saying. So again, it's very simple. B'chol yoim royenes and goyim, chutz mishabbos v'yontif. To say Shabbos v'yontif, you'll never allowed to see it. Shabbos v'yontif. Not only the first time, even the second time, even the third time. Explains the Rambam. Chol yoim shvi liyos b'Shabbos oy v'yontif. Right? After a week or two, it's mavir noisoi, because you cannot do it on Shabbos because it's a din. Because it's a din. Not because of simcha. Not because of simcha. Because it's a din. When is the halacha that even... Yeah, so that's the halacha which the Rambam is putting together Shabbos and Yom Tov, because without putting together Shabbos and Yom Tov, it would be mutter to go to the Kohen after 1 week. Because it's not a stira to simcha. Right? We have to understand why. But this is what the Mishnah Melech says. Why? Why is it bottled? But the Gemara by us tells us that it can become worse. It can become a muchlit. The Gemara says, okay, we'll try to understand the Rambam. The Gemara says by us that that's considered something that you shouldn't do. Okay, we'll understand it. But again, the Rambam had gehalten that to make a Mitzoyre from a Torah to a Mitzoyre, that's a stira to Yontif. Mitzad Simcha, where is it Noigeya on Chol HaMoed? Because on Shabbos v Yontif, you're anyway not allowed to do it. Mitzad, it's also Mitzad Simcha, but it's also Mitzad Din. Where is the special halacha from Shabbos and Yontif? That's only the second week or the third week, right? So the Rambam had gehalten Taka that Shabbos, the Mishnah Melech is learning like this. Avada, when we have the reason from Simcha, we don't need the reason from Din. Yeah, the reason from Simcha is a much stronger reason than Din. Din is a Drabanon, But after 1 week, where the reason from Simcha doesn't apply, so that's where we need the reason from Ein Royenes and Goyim Mitzad Din. That's the Mishnah Melech's Yisoid, that Simcha, the stira from Riyas Negoyim with Simcha is only after is only the first time that a Tohur sees a nega. After the first time that a Tohur sees a nega, that's when there's a reason not to paskin, because it's a stira to Simcha. But after a week, being a musker, or 2 weeks, it's mitzat Simcha, you could paskin, or beyontif and Shabbos, there'll be a problem because of the reason from that it's a din. That's the yisoid from the Mishnah Melech, that Ein Royenes and Goyin, Ein Royenes and Goyin, but Shabbos v'yontif is only Shabbos and Yontif. It's never seen because of din, but mitzat Simcha, there won't be a problem. That's the Shittas Rambam according to the Mishnah Melech. So let's understand, Taka, how do we understand this thing? Yeah, so we have here the Shittas Rambam, which is klar. Al Kaponim, that the Rambam is learning that the stira, the reason from Ein Royenes Negoyim that's mevu about an hour sugya moed cotton mitzad, the stira to Simchas Yontif, only applies the first time by a Torah shenir and nega. But once the guy is a musger, even though in our sugya we see that would be also a stira to Yontif, from making a muchlit into a musger, the Gemara is done, which is worse, but there's definitely a shakla v'tari in the Gemara by us, that even after a week, or even after 2 weeks, there would be a stira to Simchas Yontif. Why did the Rambam hold Kadova Poshet, and that the stira to Simchas Yontif is only the first week, and not only the first time, and not the first week, the second week? What's the pshat in them? What's the idea in this? So I think, again, Avada, in our sugya we see different, but let's understand the Rambam. I think there's a more fundamental question maybe that has to be asked. How do we understand the Poshet of Taich is that Simchas Yontif is disturbed by being a tzarua, by being a tzaras, right? Being away from people. If it's mechutz lamachno, it's not being with your wife. This is the Pashtus Hasugi. The shaila is, Simchas Yontif is Basa V'yayin. B'zman hazeh. Yeah, it's Basa V'yayin. The guy could drink, he could, yeah, like you said before, you could drink, you could eat basar. Where is this a stira? Why? It's very nakishmak. We'll accept, yeah, it's very nakishmak to be away or to whatever it entails. But in the end of the day, why is it considered a stira to Simchas Yontif? You could have your Simchas Yontif, we don't decide ourselves what Simcha is, right? Chazal told us, Simcha is bebasa v'yayin. Why is this considered a stira to Simchas Yontif?
By the wife get married in Chol Hamoed.
What?
You get married in Chol Hamoed for the same reason.
You don't, or you do?
You could.
You could, right?
You could drink wine and meat and shine without it.
Right. And the question is l'chorah even more. We'll accept already by Nigay Odom, we'll accept that it's a stira to Simcha. But what's with Nigay Batim? What's with Nega Beged? So you lost the suit. I mean, where is that? Or your house, it's locked up, let's say, but
One
Bekesher. But I mean, how do we understand? I mean, it's a bissel schwer, be'emes zu verstehen. Why is this a stira? Why going to the kohen to determine if your house has a neg or not is going to cause you not Simchas Yontif because you won't have your house? I mean, right? It could be, but by a beged. Because, so maybe they had one beged. It could be again, but this is something that needs to be understood. Yeah, clearly, very clearly.
The Rambam says something that he'll carry on with Simcha by marriage. He says, he doesn't say.
And the Gemara always seems to be talking about
The begotten, right? The Rambam talks also about ben begotten, right? Okay, so now and I think another question that's geschmack to chew on and to understand. Let's say again, this is all, let's say, a stira to Simchas Yontif. But why would it be a issa for the kohen to tell you that you have a nega? Mm-hmm. Since when is it his issa? I mean, you're supposed to be besimcha, but the guy is telling you your situation. You have a chiyuv not to cause a person not to have Simchas Yontif?
causing him tzar.
Where is that issa? It's a very, I'm saying in Mesilas Yesharim, it's definitely Oisgalt. And I want to know in Halacha, so there's Halacha from Besimachas Ishtoi. You're supposed to make your wife happy. I don't know if the Kohen has a tzivui to make other people happy. I don't know. Oh, so that doesn't mean that you're not supposed to put a person into such a situation. But again, this is all geschmacky questions. I think the Rambam learned.
It's a store for the guy to go to the Kohen.
What?
Maybe it's a store for the guy to go to the Kohen.
But it's not only, it's ein royan. We see that the halacha is ein royan. The kohen doesn't know. It's not only, you have a point, but we see that even if the guy went, the kohen is not supposed to pass him. Why is he not supposed to pass him? Because you're not supposed to make him tzar. Where does it say that? So it could be. I think the Rambam had gelernt taka that the stira is not with the hanhoga from Simchas Yontif. Just the idea is as a Yontif, is a Yontif. There's two parts to Yontif. Yontif is a Yontif, the Shivas Yomim from Yom Tov. Then there's V'somachto b'chagecho, there's dinim how to prave simcha on Yontif. But there's a part of Poshet Yontif. Yontif, this is Yomim Shel Halal. This is very famous by Chanukah. The Rambam says, Kovim Yom Tov. The Rambam holds that there's no mishta v'simcha, but there's yontif v'negeya halal v'hoido. Right? There's two parts in a yontif. There's the yontif, but the Torah kevei given that this is a yontif. It's a yoim from avada yoim sel simcha. It's a different kind of a day. And then there's the things, the act, the hanhoga that we do in order to be besimcha, because we have a choiv to be v'somach to b'chagecha. You have a obligation to be besimcha. The Rambam had learned that the yesod that we're learning here is that don't make Yom Tov into Yemei Tzaras. Don't take the Shivas Yomim of Yom Tov and turn it into a different chalois, to a Yemei Tzaras. That's the stira. It's not because it's going to affect your Simchas Yontif. It could be that your Simchas Yontif won't be affected, especially by Nigei Batim and Nigei Begodim. But you're not supposed to take a yontif and turn it into yomim shel tzaras. This is the idea that the Rambam says that noisnen loy shivas yontiv, right? The Rambam says the same halacha by the same loshon by a chosen shenir by nega noisnen loy shivas yemei amishte v'chein im nir bebegodove bebeise ein roy nois ad achamishte v'chein beregel noisnen loy kol yemois haregel. Right? We don't want to make the regel into yomim shel tzaras. That's the stira. That's the halacha. And that's learned from the Tziva HaKoyin of Finos Beisai. That says we find such idea by a Dvar Rishus that we hold back the psak. We hold back the psak in order to save the Kalim. So the same halacha will hold back the psak in order that Yontif should stay b'shleimus. That it should be a Yontif. This is the halacha. Memela, the Rambam learned that we understand the Mishnah Melech's Yesod, that this is all when you're turning in a Yontif into Yemei Tzaras, that says by a Tohor Shenira Nega, by a Tohor Shenira Nega, that's when the halacha applies, because you're making now from Yontif to Yemei Tzaras. But the Rambam had gehalten, if you're already in Yemei Tzaras, you're already in Tzaras, right? And Yontif comes, there's no stira to continue it. That says you're in that situation. And even if you won't paskin, he'll stay in that situation. That's not considered a stira to the Shivas Yomim Toivim. Right? The stira is when you're making a person that's a Torah, you're taking the days, you're making the next days. You want to make from Shivas Yomim, from Yom Tov, you want to make it into Yemei Tzaras, that's what you're not supposed to do. But once it's already a Tzaras, and you're going to now paskin, if he stays in the situation, or he becomes a muchlit, or he becomes a musker, that's already not the shakla v'tarya. We could say it pashut without hezbeirim. The Rambam held that the mekoyer for this is from Ufinu as Abayis. Over there we're talking about holding back, making it tzaras. Over there it's not the pshat that you have a tzaras and you're holding back to determine what kind of a tzaras is. Right? You're holding back from paskening that if this bias has a tzaras or not. So the Rambam had gehalten the same halacha is when we're talking about Yontif. We hold back the psak. Mahal tzirik the psak. We don't pasken. But once it's already, he's a tzarua, we don't say, don't pasken. Right? The limud that we're learning, Pashat, I'm saying we could say without as beir. The limit that is learning us is from Ufinu as a bias. Over there the pshat is, don't pasken what the bias is. Once you paskened, we don't have a mekor that you could hold back the psak. So memelo the Rambam gehalten hu adin yontiv. Once it's a paskin, you don't hold back the psak. But we can understand it. I think if we understand that the idea is not the stira in simchas yontiv. You see, if it's a stira in simchas yontiv in your personal simcha, this is our Gemara, the taka discussion that sometimes it could become more painful. It could be more painful. But the Rambam didn't hold that the stira is because it's going to cause you pain. That's not the stira. The stira is because you're being koiveya yontif for your mate saras. Or memelo, the Rambam gehalten that only is when you're being koiveya yontif in your mate saras. But once it's already yomim shel saras, it says you're a mushkir or you're a muchlit. In that case, there's no such halacha that you shouldn't pasken. That could be as the hasbara. Yeah, that makes things much easier according to the Rambam. That explains to us why, even by nigga batim and nigga begodim, there's such idea, because you're turning in. That's also, I think, the loshon. Shelo yahapoich, and Hilchas Yontiv Rambam says, v'nimtza chagoi nehepach la'evil. He's talking the chag is nehepach la'evil. He's not saying that you are going to be betzad. Right? You're turning the chag into evil. You're turning the chag into evil. That's the problem. It's good or not?
Yeah, no, I'm saying the word, the psak of the kayin only could be a tzaras psak, not a yontif psak.
Right.
No, hold on a minute. The psak has to be strictly tzaras.
Right. So that could be the hezbollah of the Mishnah, Pshat and the Rambam, that the Rambam gehalten, that's the stira. Avad, it's not our Sugyos Gemara. I mean, that's what the Neisa Kelm said, that the Rambam didn't paskin like our Gemara. The Rambam paskin like the Mishnah. But this is how the Rambam understood the Mishnah. It says it's good to know. We have in parentheses in our Mishnah betchila. So now that we have the Rambam, it's taka only betchila. Right? When the Rambam says, right? The Mishnah says by us that Ein Roinas in a Goyim, and it's in parentheses, Betchilo, that's how the Rambam Taka learned. That Ein Roinas in a Goyim, B'choil HaMoyed, is only Betchilo. On Yom Tiv, granted, there'll be a din even later that you're not supposed to see because of din. But the Simcha Din, the halacha that's brought here in Moed Katan, that's talking Mitzat Simcha, that's only Betchila, and the explanation could be, like we said, that the stira is to turn Yom Tiv into Yemei Tzeras. It's not because you're going to be personally affected. That could be the idea. Rabbi Levine told me that we should be Messiah with some Divrei Agudah is it's Matzah Shabbos from Kabbalah Satorah to see such a tzibur from a Vakshei Torah. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. I have a relative in Eretz Yisrael that called me last week and told me a very interesting, beautiful story about my father, Zecher Tzadik Levracha. My father was a Yid that was oisik b'Torah his whole life, mamish b'dal dam shel halacha, Monsi, and this person in Eretz Yisrael met a Yid in the old city, mamish last week, a person by the name Friedlander, a Kohen that moved in his older age to the old city in Yerushalayim HaKodesh. And he was a Yid that was a Muncie person. I still remember this person. I mean, there was a person in Muncie by the name Friedlander that retired and moved to Eretz Yisrael. And he told this person that I want to tell you, it came up the name Weinfeld from Muncie. He told him, I want to tell you a story that I had with him. So he said that when he was, we're talking about in the early 70s, he lived in Muncie, and he had a very comfortable government job. He had a comfortable government job, and but he was very, very. He had no sipuk, as they say. He had no enjoyment in this job. It was very boring for him. It was a job. But it had a lot of milas. Yeah, we know the benefits, all kinds of different assurances and pensions and v'chulu. Yeah, it's kompetente gute Sachen. On the other hand, he was offered another job. That this other job sounded to him like mamish what he would enjoy. He would enjoy with a passion. But Meidach Gisa didn't have all these geschmacke things. So he had a question. He didn't know what he should do. On one hand, he felt maybe he should stay with this boring job. On the other hand, he felt like maybe he should look for something. Yeah, he should take this thing. It's more challenging and it's more geschmack and it's going to give him more chiyas. So he went to my father Zecher Tzadik Levracha to ask him this question. So my father told him, it says by Vayhi Kayin Royetzoi V'hoyo Hevel Oiveit Adoma. Right? As it steht in Pasuk. So the question is, why does it say by Kayin Vayhi and by Hevel it says V'hoyo? Why is it? So he told him like this, that Kayin was on a higher darga than Hevel. And Kayin felt that the job is not something that's supposed to bring you happiness. You do it because there's Gzeira, you're supposed to work in order to be able to live. Hevel felt like he's the farmer, he's Oived Adama, he's Mr. Businessman, and he's happy. V'hoyo, he was a happy person. So he told him, don't look for happiness in your job. A Yid looks for happiness in Torah. That's where a Yid finds his happiness, that's where it begins, and that's where it ends, and that's the only real happiness. If this job that you have now is doing its job, you're looking for happiness, learn noch a blat Gemara. Learn a little more. What are you looking for? Another job? For a better job? That's where you're going to find happiness. What kind of happiness is that? This is what the story that he told him. And he told him that, by the way, if I wouldn't have stayed in this job, I wouldn't be able to be now in Yerushalayim HaKodesh and live off the pension. So Baruch Hashem, it paid off. He's living already 20 years on pension in Yerushalayim HaKodesh. But Al Kaponim, the idea is that our simcha zachaim, everything, our enjoyment comes from Torah. And Be'emes, being in such a kehillah with Rabbi Cinnamon and Bechlal, with all these beautiful shiurim, this is taka, it's possible. It's possible to really enjoy, to get our chiyas, our enjoyment from Torah Kedosha, and not from all the Havli Olam Hazeh that we could sometimes think could bring us happiness. Al der Eibishter helfen, am soll Tage kennen, enjoy and Torah and continue lahagdol Torah la'adeh. Gute Woche.